Hey everyone, thanks so much for checking out Season 2 of the BATTASS podcast. Just wanted to give you guys all a heads up. July is going to be a very busy month for us here because we've got Curse of the White Knight, which is Volume 2 of Sean's Batman book, is going to be debuting, as well as a Kickstarter for a book I'm going to be doing called Bloody Hell. And as that gets closer to coming out, you'll get more information. So thanks so much and enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome again to the BATTASS podcast, the Batman the Animated Series show podcast, where we talk about Batman the Animated Series. My name is Clay McCormick, and with me is...
Sean Murphy, and we're here together, again, face-to-face, just the way I like it.
Very unfortunately rare, as we live multiple states away. But when we can do it, we like to, because it sounds better, I think.
Well, my crazy pitch was, why don't I come down, we'll watch a bunch of episodes, we'll get drunk, and we'll record, 6 episodes in a day. Just run the marathon and do it. And even though it's going to be bad by the end, let's just do it, just for the story.
Yeah.
And Clay's the adult, so he said no.
Yeah. Having done multiple shows in a day, back to back, it gets old real quick.
Yeah.
And it would not be fun for anybody recording or listening if we did that.
Right.
Maybe when we're done with the series, we can run through a bunch of the movies and do that.
Right.
Anyway, today we're going to be talking about 2 episodes. We're going to be talking about Cape and Cowl Conspiracy and Laughing Fish, because maybe when we're done with the series, we can run through a bunch of the movies and do that.
Makes sense.
Today we're going to be talking about 2 episodes. We're going to be talking about Cape and Cowl Conspiracy and Laughing Fish, because Robin's Reckoning, Part 1 and Part 2, we had to break it up a little bit, so we're kind of jumping on the other side.
Makes sense.
So yeah, let's get into it, and we'll start with Cape and Cowl Conspiracy. Cape and Cowl Conspiracy, written by Elliot S. Maggin and directed by Frank Power. And in this episode, Baron Jozek, furious at Batman for humiliating him at a dinner party over Jozek's underworld connections, hires Josiah Wormwood, a master in setting traps for his victims, to hunt down Batman and bring back the hero's Cape and Cowl. Note, based on the comic book story, The Cape and Cowl Death Trap from Detective Comics number 450, August 1975, written by Elliot S. Maggin. So he actually wrote the comic and then ended up writing this episode.
Oh, I hope the comic was better.
Yeah. I did not like this episode. This is the first one that I think I've straight up just not liked.
Yeah. Well, one thing I just thought of is, because the next episode as well is referenced from some Batman comics in the 70s.
Yep.
What we're seeing is what I call the 20-year turnover, where, if I read Spider-Man 299 when I was, a kid, and I loved it, and now here we are 20 years later, whatever, and now we've got it's in the movie, it's coming back. I feel like this was their image back in the late 70s. Bruce Timm and these guys were reading their comics in the 70s, and then 20 years later did they get the chance to, let's go back to the original stuff.
Right.
Which is what we're doing basically now. So this is their Bruce Timm, so to speak. This is the stuff that meant the most to them when they were younger. Yeah,
that's a really good point, because, this would be the Neil Adams era, which is, I think, Laughing Fish. It's not... Yeah. I think Neil Adams did the cover, but I don't know if he did the inside.
It's the era, but it's like mid-70s.
Yeah. So that makes total sense. And they got the original writer of the story to do it.
Yeah.
But man, not good. It's first of all, why would you use this knockoff Riddler?
Yeah, that was my first note. Why isn't this a Riddler story?
Yeah, I don't think we've done a Riddler story yet. Actually, I don't think we've had one.
Yeah, I guess not.
And I don't know why you wouldn't just use him here,
Right.
where it's the same gimmick.
Yeah. But then I thought, he doesn't actually need the riddles. He's like, his thing is,
Not at all.
I like to trap people in these overcomplicated, James Bondian type contraptions and then torture them slowly.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing. That could be its own thing. You don't need to have riddles about it.
Yeah, it's really sort of forced in the way that they get to that point. And especially if this was written in 1975 originally, the Riddler's been around for a long time at that point.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
I just don't, I don't know. I can see this being, so let's say you're right, and this is the, them going back to their stuff that they liked when they were reading Batman when they were kids.
Right.
Why this?
I don't know.
Of all of the Batman stories.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it's not terrible.
Right.
I thought the animation was actually okay.
Right.
It felt really slow. A lot of the movements felt really slow, but I thought it looked pretty good.
Yeah.
But story-wise, there's so many other stories that you could go to.
Right. What I liked about it, when you texted me, that's what we're watching, I got excited because I'm like, oh, that's the one where the bad guy has Batman and Batman takes off his cowl and he's got a backup cowl, and I always thought that was cool. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the bad guy because he reminded me of Sebastian Gorka, the guy from the White House who's just completely full of shit.
Oh.
Yeah, he's great. Which one, right?
Narrow down. They're all Sebastians.
Yeah, there's so much in this one that I just didn't really work for me. Like the whole twist at the end, where that guy was Batman the whole time. Yeah. At what point does he become Batman?
So after Batman, when we first meet that character, Batman shows up when he's publicly speaking.
Yeah.
Carries him out of the room, throws him on the ground, threatens to throw him off a bridge.
Yep.
And at that point, after he gets his information out of him, I think that's when he leaves Gotham. Batman says, take a vacation out of Gotham. And the next time we see him, he's behind his desk again. That's Bruce Wayne. And Bruce wants this Wormwood to go get Batman's cowl, and then I will tell you what I need to know where you got these this bit money from this weird business.
He's leaving money for someone else to pick up, I think, or something like that.
It's what the point is, it's a long way to go for a ham sandwich.
Yes.
I felt like Batman should just arrest him and say, we will knock time off your sentence if you tell us this information.
Or why doesn't he just do this whole thing impersonating the Baron at the top?
Right.
Why, when they first meet, why doesn't he go, I want you to do something for me?
Even better, yeah.
But before you do it,
right.
What did you do with that money? Because I need to know you're good for it, or some shit like that.
I think what they wanted was the cool. They were going after the cool payoff, and the cool payoff is Batman's been dressing up as this guy all along, and no one knew it, and he had to do it because the only way you wouldn't give him this information is if you thought that he wasn't Batman and he was this other guy. I get that, but it has to make sense, and at the end of it, it just doesn't make any sense. Not to mention, Batman basically lets him go twice to go out, try another scheme, which puts Batman's life and others at risk. He's talking to Gordon the whole time, and the police never show up or involved in any way. Right. And these riddles, all they do is point out how bad Gordon is at riddles.
Dude, oh man, the level of I hate to say it's bad writing, but it felt like bad writing. Where they read Batman and Gordon read that first riddle, and then Gordon goes, "What does that mean?" And Batman just goes, "You don't know."
Why?
What a fucking asshole! he's a complete dick to Gordon,
right?
And then he just leaves.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah, and I don't know.
The second time he's like, "Oh, obviously it's at the wax museum. Bye." And Gordon's like, "Do you want me to send cops?"
No,
you're gone.
So the one thing I was wondering was, is this supposed to be an early years Batman story? Because there's a scene when he goes to meet Gordon. He goes he answers the bat signal, and he says to Gordon, "Oh, you got a new toy."
So is this the first appearance of the bat signal?
I don't know. I feel like it's not because it's in the credits. I don't know if that counts, but it might be the first appearance in the show.
Yeah, I mean that caught me off guard because I just assumed. Well, I've been seeing these episodes for 25 years, whatever.
Yeah.
I assumed that the stuff we've already reviewed up to this point, one had to have a bat signal in it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Huh.
Someone listening, write in and tell us if this is the first appearance of the bat signal.
To Batman in this, it feels like he's never seen it before.
Right.
And also, I have a tangent to go off on the bat signal, but I want to say let's get through the rest of these. Let me see. Gordon's horrible at riddles and clues. Oh, I thought the end was one of the worst fights in this series. So
yeah,
Batman he reveals that he's actually Batman. The guy runs away with his key that Batman needs.
Mm-hmm.
Batman doesn't lasso him with the Batarang. He slowly walks after him, and the guy gets into the next room, which is the gym.
Wait a minute. If you're gonna talk shit about the barbell fight, we're gonna have some issue here.
We're gonna go for the barbell fight. Let me get to it. The key goes under the door as Batman tackles him. He thinks he's knocked the guy out, but he doesn't. Batman slowly walks into the gym looking for this key, and the guy sneaks around in the shadows, and he grabs a pair of not dumbbells, but curling bars, basically, a 45-pound bar, and starts using it like a staff.
Yep.
Like Donatello.
It's awesome.
And Batman grabs one. Yeah. You can't tell me. This is the worst. Not only is the preparation awful, and Batman could have nipped this in the bud much faster, but fighting somebody with weights is the stupidest idea ever.
Yeah, it's not very practical. I see. That's
a sense of butt coming.
That's part of what makes me feel like it's a early Batman story, because he's never seen the bat signal before. He's a total prick to Gordon, and the way that he fights this guy with the guy picks up this barbell first, and then Batman's like, "Fine, you want to fight with barbells? I'll fight with a barbell." It's a very brash young Batman feeling, but they never say that, so that's probably not the case. But
yeah.
But come on, it's a barbell fight. I mean, at the very least, that was my favorite part of the episode, because at least I was like, well, I've never seen that before.
Wasn't there some action movie that we love where they do that? I thought we saw something.
I don't know. The closest that I can think of, it's not a barbell fight, but it's an old horror movie called Motel Hell, which it's not, I would say 90% of it is skippable, but that last 10% is...
Yeah. Well,
it involves, the reason I bring it up is because there's a scene at the end where two guys get into a chainsaw fight. Right. Which I had never seen before. And this was 1984, so these guys were actually fighting with chainsaws.
Not even sanded down chainsaws?
They might not have had the chain on them, but there's two dudes, there's no computers or anything. It's two guys with chainsaws fighting with them like swords.
That does sound pretty good.
It was great. Oh, and one guy's wearing a pig head.
Yeah, still sounds good.
Yeah, it's great.
I feel like if it was Bane fighting with barbells, that would sort of make sense. I'd give it a pass. It's not the best weapon, but he's Bane, and that's kind of his thing.
And it would be great if Bane was fighting with a barbell like a bow staff.
Yeah.
And Batman was throwing 5-pound weights at his face.
Yeah. He was throwing thigh masters and low impact items that he could successfully whip across the room.
Yep.
What else?
My favorite part of this episode outside of the barbell fight was when Wormwood goes to the Baron's office, and the Baron's like, "I have something I want you to do," and he pulls out this giant
poster of
Batman poster.
Was it a photo Batman or a Batman poster?
If it was a photo, he had to call to CVS personally to get one printed that big.
I have it written here. Quote, "Find Batman. Here's a picture and this sweet-ass poster I bought." Tear.
Yeah, then he tears it in half. I mean, that probably wasn't cheap to print back then.
I know.
Whenever this is supposed to take place.
I know. Printers and black and white TVs. It's an amalgam of the timeline. So, I'm
going to say it's a poster because Batman does not pose for photos.
Right. Well, I mean, if it was a photo, a blow-up of a security camera of Batman who's posed right.
It's a 27 by 40 really, really blurry picture. It's I think this is Batman. This is what I want.
Oh, man. Yeah. Can we talk about the bat signal?
Yes, please.
I never thought about this before, and I don't want to get rid of the bat signal, but it seems to me the best way to call Batman would be to give him a beeper or a cell phone or anything.
Well, but then they're going to sell that number to robocallers, and he's going to get bat phones calling him from the same area code, but it's from China.
Batman,
for some
this
reason.
is the Prince of Dubai. I need you to send me $20,000.
Yeah, that's my biggest pet peeve about phones now. Do you get those phone calls where it's the same area code and the same first three numbers of your number, but it's just from China or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what these people are doing, what they expect me to do if I pick up, which I don't.
Right.
But as far as practical ways to call Batman,
But here's another. If you wanted to kill Batman,
yeah,
wait sit on a rooftop,
Mm-hmm.
wait for the sit near the top of GCPD.
Yep.
Wait for the light to go on.
Mm-hmm.
Get a sniper rifle.
Mm-hmm.
You know Batman's going to show up in 5 minutes. Bam! You shoot him in the face.
You're no fun.
But that's literally how easy it would be, according to this bat signal
True.
shit that they set up.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I love the bat signal, but I've never thought about it before, but it really makes no sense.
I also love how the bat signal has its own suspension of disbelief. Like, you know how there's this suspension of disbelief with Superman where it's like, well, when his glasses are on, he's Clark Kent, nobody could tell he's Superman, but obviously you'd be able to tell. With the bat signal, it's always like, Gordon, I know that you have that bat signal on top of GCPD, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And like they can't trace it back to where it's coming from. It's just a rumor that it's up there.
Well, in the Burton verse, I feel like they used it twice, but it was only when things got real bad and they needed to turn it on.
I
think Gordon in this uses it like twice a week.
Yeah, well, in the comics, it's much more of a common occurrence, I think.
Okay.
And in the 60s show, it was very common. In the Burton movies, they only use it, I think, they use it once at the end of the first movie.
Right.
And that's just for dramatic effect.
Yeah.
And the second time we talked about last episode, where they do that ridiculous scene where they shine it into Wayne Manor, which is...
I'm so blinded by the 4 lights in my manor. Like, I need 30 minutes of darkness just to be able to see now.
Yeah. But, you know, I like it when there are ways to kind of subvert it a little bit, where I think it was... I don't know if it was the last 2 episodes we covered. It must have been, because I think it was fairly recently, where there was a scene where the bat signal... Maybe I read in a comic, I don't remember. It might have been a comic. They shine the bat signal, and then there's these 2 robbers who are doing whatever, and one of them's like, shit, we need to get out of here. And the other guy says, no, that means he's busy doing something else.
Oh, that's clever.
You know, I think that might have been Batwoman. I can't remember.
You know what? You could actually you could build a bat signal, put it on somewhere that's not GCPD, on the other side of the city, turn it on, and you know you've got at least an hour of no Batman to do what you got to do. Yeah. He's going to be running towards it, and then he figures it out, and he's going to come the other way. Yeah. And pretty soon you got all the jewels, and you run away.
Yeah, I mean, it's the theory of set off. So it's what is it, Die Hard 3?
Yeah.
Where they set off this other thing to distract all of the cops so they can go and steal whatever the money from underneath the World Trade Center or some shit like that.
Is 3 where they had the 3 gallons and the 5 gallons and they needed exactly 4 gallons?
I think so, yes. Yeah, right. When he gets sent on a bunch of weird tasks. Yes. But yeah, it's you know, like with anything, it's kind of when you think about it a lot, it's not super practical.
Yeah. I think this is the nice thing about cartoons and comics is that it works in a comic, but when you put stuff into movies and you have real people doing these real things, that's when it's like, actually doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't hold up. But I think the suspension of disbelief in animation and comics is kind of nice, especially as a writer. Yeah. Like if you're too lazy to show something, you're like, well, just say, I'll come up with some comic book science and people won't care. But if you're going to make a movie of it, that's true. You got to be careful if you get into too much like Trekkie science to explain away the plot.
I invite you to watch Star Trek Discovery.
I was going to ask you about that comment later.
Yeah.
Seems like you have a love-hate relationship.
I want to love it, but I hate it. So yeah. That's not entirely true. The new season has been better, and the guy who plays Captain Pike is amazing. Okay. Very, very big surprise. Pleasant surprise.
He looks good. He looks the part.
Yeah, he's
waiting
great.
Until it's all out, and then I can just get CVS for a week.
Yeah. If you want to hear more about that, you can listen to the other podcast that I do where we talk about Star Trek Discovery, and you can hear all my thoughts about that. Yeah, I mean, the bat signal's such a great visual, though. Yeah. It's as iconic as you get, right? And it's the way they use it in the Burton movie, that final shot where it's up in the sky and he's standing.
Signal.
Yeah.
And it comes on like a little explosion.
Yeah. And the music comes up and they do the tracking up the building. Right. And the only thing I don't like about that shot is I think he's too small. I wish they had pushed in a little bit more because he looks like he looks like that. I'm pointing to my Michael Keaton Batman figure on my wall where he's just kind of tiny up there.
We can all see it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's such a great visual, such a great way to end that movie. I don't like it when they try to be too real about it. Right. Like in the, what was it? I think it was Batman versus Superman, where they shine it and it's like cloudy, so
Yeah.
it's all diffused and you can't really see it. And it's like, well,
That's
kind
how it
of
would be in real life.
yeah, but that's no fun.
You need a nice flat cloud surface right above you for it to really work.
You need to above Gotham PD.
Yeah.
You have to put a 400-foot billboard
Yeah.
that you can just project it on, so it's nice and flat,
Exactly.
nice and clear. Yeah.
The thing is, like, when you have those nice summery, like, high-pressure days and there's no clouds around, you can't call Batman.
No,
You need
it's
to
just
shine
gonna
it
be
on the building.
I mean, if it's foggy, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Maybe that explains those things at Wayne Manor, where it's like he's going to need to be able to see this.
Yeah, he might miss it. Yeah, maybe, like, you don't even actually need... Maybe it just triggers an alarm in the Wayne Manor, and it triggers the 4 bat signals in his courtyard to shine into his TV room or whatever.
I would like to see a mini comic about the guy who lives next door to Bruce Wayne,
Right.
who just starts to pick up every time the bat signal goes on, these giant lights.
Wait, it's he lives in the gardener shed that Bruce
Yep.
has, like, rented Airbnb. It's like, what?
That's hilarious. The guy who's Airbnb-ing the like above the garage at Wayne Manor. That's a good story. I would love to do that story.
I was thinking too.
Like it goes on and he just like leans his head over to see the bat signal projected on the wall inside the house.
And suddenly he just, like, underneath he hears a giant iron door open and a waterfall stops.
Yeah.
And this car comes cruising out. 20 minutes later, comes back covered in blood.
Yep. Yeah.
Rating 4 stars.
Yep.
Kept
Has
me
all
up at
these
night.
has all these weird younger men going in and out of his house all the time at strange hours of the night.
It's like, not a gay club, not a gay club, not a gay club.
Maybe it's that house from that real estate listing that has the sex dungeon.
Oh yeah, the sex dungeon. Hey, you know what? Could be a perk. Could be a selling point.
Yeah. I would. Yeah. The
Do you-
listing for Wayne Manor would be great.
Is there a comic about Henchman School? Or any kind of cartoon or parody about Henchman School?
There must be.
There's got to be.
Yeah.
I feel like that's got to...
I remember. Do you remember the Tick cartoon show?
Yes.
There was a great episode where the Tick was trying to infiltrate. I think this was the Tick. Was trying to infiltrate the bad guy club,
Yeah,
and
that
his
sounds, yeah,
and
that's what I'm
his
talking about.
his buddy there, sidekick Arthur, I believe his name is, the Moth guy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Had to pretend to be his sidekick. Or maybe it was just it might have been a hero club. I think it was a hero club.
Okay.
So they're going to the hero club. The Tick gets to go into the main body of the party,
Right.
but Arthur has to go hang out with all of the other sidekicks in like the boathouse where they're all playing cards.
And they all have like complex...
Yeah. That was a great show.
dependency issues.
Yeah,
or-
forget this Batman show. Let's watch the Tick.
So I've been playing Darkwing Duck on NES.
Oh, nice.
And going back and this is no bearing on this whatsoever. I was only thinking about it because I think shit, it wasn't Darkwing Duck, it was Tiny Toons, and they had Bat Duck and his sidekick Decoy.
Nice. Yep, Decoy. Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, sidekicks. Like I always wondered, like, do you have to be just goofy enough to be a good sidekick? Like a good sidekick doesn't take over. A good sidekick knows when to accidentally drop the gun. You got to let the guy who's in charge feel like he did all the work, but really the sidekicks do all the work.
Yeah, a good sidekick needs to know when to hide in the shadows
Right.
and wait until the opportune moment to jump out
Right.
and save the good guy.
Or when Joker has Curly Larry Moe sidekick, but it's only Curly Larry, it's like, sorry, you guys need to find your Moe before you can go out there.
So yeah, we loved this episode, which is why we've been talking about it so intently.
Well, do we have a what would you draw?
Honestly, barbell fight. That was the only thing I liked about this episode. It was, I don't know. It was nothing really. My first answer was going to be yes, a different episode. But yeah, I don't know.
But barbells, I mean, drawing gym equipment is always a pain in the ass because you got to draw ellipses,
Right.
like circles in perspective. And I notice when a lot of people draw the Batcave and they draw Bruce's like weight set, it's the basic, it's the rings. They don't have any equipment that's actually what you find in a gym because that shit is a pain in the ass to draw.
I would do that gym would have, you know how there's some of those gyms that have weights that are cube shaped.
Sure.
That's what I would do.
Or have it all in a cord.
Yeah, there you
Just
go.
have a stack of weights.
It would just be a Nautilus machine. It would be a fight with Nautilus.
and
Ooh, that would be awesome. You pull the thing off the Nautilus machine and start swinging the weights around like a mace.
As you pull it, something else attacks you. So you're trying to do curls while using your other hand to block.
Yeah.
And you're using a Batman-shaped Thigh Master.
You should write this into White Knight too. And I think it's a good idea.
Well, I had an idea once where Batman had to fight the Batcave. He had to fight his way out of the Batcave. Like someone had hijacked, or like everything's computerized.
Like Maximum Overdrive, all of his stuff just starts attacking him.
Starts turning on him. So like that Bruce Lee like bar, that block bar thing, I don't know what you call it. That thing starts spinning out of control and chasing him. Lasers go off. The TV explodes. The Batmobile starts shooting.
I think there's a Batman black and white story like that from maybe the most recent one where it's the cave starts attacking him. And then it turns out that it's Alfred running like a training program.
Is that a real thing?
I think so.
Shit, I put the Batman attacking the Batcave in Volume 2 of White Knight.
Oh, really?
I had to cut it down a lot. But yeah, the Batcave gets hijacked and he says get the fuck out of there. And it's basically him versus the Batmobile. I mean, it's short.
It's not the same. I know what you're talking about. It's not the same.
Oh, man, it would kill me.
This thing was, I'm pretty sure, I'd have to go back and read it, but it was something like that where all of the defense mechanisms at Wayne Manor turn on him.
Good. I thought I got Wonder Woman for a second.
No, that's just me.
Do you want to explain what that means?
No, that's all right.
I don't know what I would draw. I don't know if I'd draw that stupid dumb barbell scene. The melting wax thing could be cool if you have these like grotesque figures of like Marilyn Monroe melting. That could be cool.
Yeah,
if you had that like a false plate spread of that.
Yeah. What would you rate this one?
I want to go 2.
2? Yeah, I'm going to say 2 as well. Like, it's not... It's weird, because it's not bad. Like, there's nothing that's, like, really terrible about it. The story doesn't make a ton of sense. And, I mean, it's got that thing with the extra... The extra mask doesn't really make a lot of sense, but that's fun. But it's not...
This is a Batman 66 story done with the veneer of Batman the Animated Series. This is what I feel like they took a great story that worked in the 70s, and they didn't tell the writer, "Hey, we're kind of doing something different here. Mm-hmm. We need you to like do your thing, but like make it more adulty."
Right.
And he didn't quite get the memo.
Yeah, it actually reminded me of there's one of the old Fleischer Superman cartoons where there's a guy going around impersonating Superman. And he's got the suit on, and he's like robbing banks and stuff. And all the designs are so similar to that anyway. I kind of thought that's where they were going. I thought when he's like, I thought the Baron was going to say, I need you to frame Batman or some shit like that.
Right.
But that Superman one has such a great ending because this guy who's impersonating Superman is working for this bigger boss. Mm-hmm. And he comes back and he brings him the loot and everything. And then after Superman takes care of the imposter, he goes to the dude's place and is just like hanging out behind his desk. And you can't see his face, but you can see the Superman symbol. And the guy's like, give me the money, and he's not moving. He's like, are you not listening to me?
Yeah.
What's going on? And then he grabs his golf club, and he's like, when I tell you to do something, and then he whacks him, and the golf club just snaps, and he goes, oh, no. It's great.
That's great.
I would love, if we ever do extra shows, I would love to do some of those Fleischer cartoons, because those cartoons are amazing.
Yeah. I actually have a cassette tape of the Superman radio show. Which is pretty interesting.
No kidding.
Because you hear a gunfire, and then you'll hear Superman go, a pity you can't see those bullets bounce off my chest. Because there's no way to tell the listener what just happened.
Right.
So you have Superman narrating the fight as he's kicking a whole bunch of ass.
Yeah, or you do the thing where you have people watching the fight, and they're like, I can't believe the way the bullets are just bouncing off his chest. So not super high on this one.
Yeah. Well, question, is there a 1 out there in this series?
Ooh.
Top of your head, can you think of a 1? Because I feel like we should be prepared to rate a couple of things with a 1.
Yeah, I don't think we've done that yet.
We haven't, no. I've given out like 2 5s, I think, already.
Yeah, Wes. If Wes was involved, he would have all of these things spreadsheeted because I think he does that for the Star Trek ones.
Because you need to have it properly.
Yeah, so you need to be able to look back and I don't give a shit. I don't think we've done one that was a 1. If I had to think back and think of an episode that I think is probably closest to the 1, it might be the first Scarecrow episode.
Oh.
Because that one I remember, he's so bland.
Yeah.
The dream stuff is whatever, or the fear toxin stuff is whatever. It's just not.
Or Christmas with the Joker.
Yeah, that was I think that was one of our lowest ones, definitely. Yeah.
Huh. I mean, at the end of this, if we don't have any 1s, we'll have to come up with the worst episode, I think.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and re-rate every single one without the bell curve that we use.
Cool. Cool.
So yeah, that's going to do it for Cape and Cowl Conspiracy. Take a quick break, and we will be back with Laughing Fish. All right, we're back, and now we're going to talk about The Laughing Fish. Laughing Fish, directed by Paul Dini, directed by Bruce Timm, and in this episode, Joker creates a toxin that affects only fish, mutating them into Joker fish. Then he targets innocent men who refuse to copyright his Joker fish. The Joker also captures Harvey Bullock, and Batman must rescue him and foil the Clown Prince of Crime's insane scheme. Note, this episode is based on 3 Batman comics blended together. The Joker's Five-Way Revenge from Batman number 251, September 1973, by Denny O'Neil with art by Neil Adams, followed by The Laughing Fish and Sign of the Joker from Detective Comics 475 and 476 of February and March 1978, both by writer Steve Englehart with art by Marshall Rogers. Before we get into it, I want to mention something. In the credits, this does mention based on comics by Denny O'Neil and Steve Englehart. But they do not list the artists as they don't give them a credit. And I feel like in the modern era, every time that they credit comics, they always do the creative team as a whole, the artist and writer.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised by that.
So in the last 20 years, artists have been fighting for not just copyright and ownership of creating these ideas, but also screen credit. There's a documentary, Batman and Bill Finger, Finger, who created the Batmobile, the phrase "The Dark Knight."
He created
most of it,
all the good stuff, basically. Yeah,
and he didn't get credit till recently, after a giant legal battle. That Batman was around for 60 years before. I mean, it was crazy, but I feel like we've sort of steered the ship correctly on that. But I'm also the rare artist who can. I also sort of understand why artists were kept out of it. Because artists don't do blueprints and come up with plots and stories, and they get it after it's been designed. It's been sort of created on the page with words, and then artists take it up another level. I can see why in the 70s they would sort of gloss over artists' contributions, honestly.
To be fair, I think it depends on what the working style is. Because I know a lot of the Marvel guys back in the day were getting very loose scripts.
Yeah.
And then, that's where the Marvel method comes from. That's and if you don't know what that is, the Marvel method is the artist would get a very rough idea of what the story was about. It would be like, this issue, Thor fights the Incredible Hulk, and at the end, an alien spaceship shows up and destroys whatever.
Yeah, here's your dialogue, make it fit. You have 6 panels or whatever.
Well, they wouldn't even get dialogue, I don't think. I think they would just get the breakdown.
Okay.
And then the artist would then basically create the story, and then they would, whoever was writing it would go, Stan Lee mostly, at least during the early days, would go in and tune up the story to what the artist drew. So I think in that case,
you're right. Yeah,
it's a lot more blurry.
Right.
But I don't know how they worked at DC at that time.
Yeah, I mean everybody's different too.
Yeah.
I mean the way Scott Snyder works on Batman is, I think it's a Marvel style script.
Yeah.
And,
really?
And he and Capullo, and they've talked about this. They've talked about it publicly, and they clashed a lot at the beginning because Scott wanted to be more, panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, panel 4. Which is how I like to work as an artist.
Yep.
And Greg was more of he came off of Sam and Twitch and Spawn.
Yeah.
He just wanted listen, kid, you don't tell me how to do my job, and
And he worked at Marvel before that.
Yeah, so Marvel and Image.
I don't know, but I'm going to say he probably, judging by his work on Spawn, which is great, but it doesn't look like that was planned out panel to panel to panel.
No, I don't get that impression either. But I think that's the way that Greg likes to work, though.
Yeah, that's totally cool.
I mean, he even said, Sam and Twitch, which were these 2 cop characters from Spawn, it was just 2 guys talking in a dark alley half the time. It was easy peasy to draw after a while, But yeah, so when I write scripts, I write full scripts and dialogue, and but you make a good point. If you have a giant Daredevil movie that makes a ton of money, and you're crediting the writer, and you find out that the writer half-assed this script and the artist actually filled in a lot, then in that case, legally speaking, Yeah, he deserves a lot more credit.
Yeah.
You are actually more of a creator at that point.
Like, I don't want to be specific because I don't want to get yelled at by anybody. But do you have anything that you've done in your past where you feel like if they were to turn it into a movie, you would say, I did a lot more work than the person who was credited as the writer?
Yeah, I'll be specific. When I was doing
I
Joe
gave
the
you
Barbarian...
the out.
I don't need
That's
the
all
out.
I'm saying. I gave you the out.
When I did Joe the Barbarian, and I've talked about this before, not with Grant, but I was with a writer named Grant Morrison. It was my first sort of big break-in book where people sort of saw me on the map. And it was about this kid who was going through... he had like seizures or he was hallucinating. I forget what the disease was. But his toys would come to life.
Yeah.
And in the script, it was like his toys, soldiers, blocks, just etc. So I didn't know where the story was going. And I'm like, well, I don't want to draw a bunch of stupid blocks. So I'm going to make his toys Transformers. And there's there's Han Solo, there's Picard, there's G.I. Joe, whatever. Like I would throw everything at it. And I did such a good job of it that took over the story in a way.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't about what Grant was writing. It was about all these Easter eggs I was throwing in.
And you effectively made it impossible to turn into a movie for licensing reasons.
Well, so I remember DC they told me later that the legal department had a projector screen, like, blown up in an office, like, looking through the background at every single character. And they were making sure that I didn't draw He-Man exactly like He-Man. And they were trying to, like, is it 80% different? Like, I forget what the rule of thumb is when it comes to that stuff.
I remember you told me one of the biggest problems you had was you drew a little man with no name in the background.
A cowboy.
Yeah, and because Dynamite had the rights to that at the time, you had to change that, even though it was a very incidental detail.
DC knew that Dynamite was working on something, and even though I just drew, like, I drew a ton of stuff that should be changed.
You drew Jean-Luc Picard, full frame, and they let you do it.
And it looked like him.
It did.
Well, they changed the jacket to...
And he only had one leg.
Pink,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to be 80% different or whatever. Yeah, I think the takeaway from that book was this is a great book about a bunch of crazy... A toy war.
Yeah.
And when Grant came up with this idea, I don't think that's what he meant at all. And to this day, I can't tell you what that book was about.
Well, I'll tell you, I think they're sitting on... I've said this to you before. I think...
A lawsuit?
No. I think Joe the Barbarian would be a fantastic kids movie. Like, if this was 1987, 1990...
Oh, yeah.
That would be prime Henson Studio movie.
Oh, yeah.
I think it would be amazing.
Yeah, it's Never-Ending Story meets Toy Story.
Yeah, basically. I think it would be amazing. And speaking of copyright, Laughing Fish, I fucking loved this episode. Not explicitly because it's front to back perfect, but because the fact that the entire plot is the Joker is trying to copyright Fish to make money. So this is like the closest you could get to the Joker going straight.
Right.
Because he's crazy. So he thinks, I'm going to make money legally. I'm going to poison all these fish to turn them into Joker fish, which I am then going to copyright and cash in on. And when the copyright guy tells him, no, you can't do that, that's insane, the Joker gets so mad about it, he just tries to kill everybody.
Right.
And this episode is... He's not as... The Joker is not as dangerous and seeming and just straight up evil seeming as he was in the Drive Off the Road episode.
Right.
But I feel like this Joker is how I like my Joker, where he's ridiculous, but he's scary, and whatever he's doing, he thinks is hilarious.
Right.
Even though the stuff that he's doing is very, very dangerous and probably going to get people killed.
So this is what made the episode not work for me. But I admit that there's really two ways to go with this, depending on how you want to perceive it. Is it enough that Joker has got it in his head that he should have the copyright on these smiling fish?
This is a kid's show.
Even though that's dumb.
Based around copyright arguments.
The Joker thinks it's absolutely 100% should be his.
Yes.
And that's enough to drive it.
Yep.
If you think that that's awesome, then it works for you.
Love it.
But I'm more of a... the episode you just mentioned where he steals the guy's license.
Right.
Yeah. But I feel like it works, but this Joker you're talking about that wants his copyright, he is so crazy that he could easily qualify for an insanity plea. Whereas the episode where he takes the guy's driver's license and follows up, like he's more of a mastermind.
Yeah.
He's more dangerous. He's more fully formed.
I think they can coexist though, because there's a certain level of not insanity is not the word I'm looking for, but like being so much of a mastermind that, you know, small shit can set you off. And a person like that, when you set that person off,
right,
they're going to drive you into the ground, which he does in that episode. And I think he does here as well, but just in a different way that's a little bit less realistic.
Right. But I guess my Joker is best when he's balanced, when his insanity is balanced by seriousness in some way. And this episode was crazy, but it wasn't balanced by any sense of seriousness. He was just off the reservation.
And again, I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
I think, you know, because I think in order for him to have that balance, he has to swing both ways eventually, right?
Right.
So why he can sometimes, if something catches him on the wrong day,
right.
I mean, it not to get too heady about it, but like, isn't that sort of the definition of the relationship that Harley and Joker have?
Right.
Where he's, you know, the classic thing that people always say, oh, it's different when it's just us.
Right.
There are moments where he is sound and sweet to her,
right,
but then there's moments where she says the wrong thing and he fucking pops off on her.
Yeah, granted.
So I mean, obviously this is not a realistic depiction of that. But
right. But I mean, what you said well, something else before where you said I think this is just taste. How do you like your Joker?
Yeah.
Like I'll skip to the end on this one. I was going to give this episode a 3, but I think it probably deserves a 4.
Yeah.
But it's just not my type of 4.
Skipping to the end for me, I would give it a 4. I wouldn't give it a 5 because I think the story. I love the story for the story that they chose to tell.
Right.
But I don't think it's a perfect episode by any means.
Right.
Like there's, if I were to make this more of a perfect episode, there would be more character stuff between Batman and the Joker, maybe, or just it's very light on character.
Right.
And it's very much Batman just trying to stop the Joker's plot.
Right.
And, you know, those are fine, too.
Yeah.
I think I would prefer this to something like Christmas with the Joker, which is just wacky and off the wall, you know?
So I looked up I actually looked at the pages of art from the 70s that this episode was based off of. And I actually didn't go too deep into it because I figured you would.
I was going to, but I forgot to.
Okay, so here's what I discovered in my 10 minutes of research.
But I do have this. I do have a little model of the cover.
Oh, that's all right. There's some cool points right there. So, mostly, it was interesting because some of the Neil Adams pages I saw, it's just the shark sequence.
Yeah.
You have Batman fighting a shark, and you've got, I think it's Gordon, tied up. And in the episode, they switched it out with Bullock because they actually had a Bullock-Batman subplot in this. That's the other interesting thing about this is they were able to take 3 stories, basically 2 stories of 3 comics, cut it down to 1 and add Harley Quinn and add Bullock to it and manage to get something coherent out of it, which is impressive.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? So one of the things I came across was this article was claiming that Frank Miller gets credit for making Batman dark. And that's actually not true, according to this article. Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil made Batman dark. So when did Batman Dark Knight come out?
I want to say 1987.
85, 86. Okay.
I think. Don't quote me on that.
You can go back a decade and find...
It's one of my favorite books, but I don't know when it came out.
So the episode that... it's not O'Neil, it's the other writer you quoted before.
Englehart?
Englehart.
Yeah.
It's voted on some lists as one of the top 10 single-issue, one-shot Batman stories of all time. And I think it was one of the ones in the 70s that made Batman dark again. Because you had a story that could be goofy and Adam West-ish. Keep in mind, this is 10 years after Adam West stuff ended.
Right.
The comics were goofy and Adam Westy for 10 years, and then this one-shot came along, and it got suddenly dark again.
Yep.
And if you look at the art, and even the way the Joker's drawn, like the Joker has like the classic 60s Joker face, but there's something that's turning here. Like it's definitely darker. And I always gave Frank Miller credit for making Batman dark again, but Batman had already been dark thanks to books like this. So I think that's why this book stands out for like true collectors of that era.
Yeah. It's one I've always wanted to read, but I've never gotten around to, just because, like, not to go on a tangent.
Please, I just did.
I went to the comic book store specifically to buy a collection of Neil Adams Batman stories.
Yeah.
but they're all recolored. And they do this across the board.
Yeah.
The thing that sucks, though, is he recolored them. And he redraws stuff.
What?
If you look online, when they do these collected versions of Neil Adams stuff, he goes in and he redraws stuff. He'll fix faces. I think, arguably, I think they're not as good. But, for him, he's basically George Lucasing them.
Right.
Where he fixes stuff he doesn't like, and then he recolors them with this modern coloring scheme, which I don't think is good to begin with.
Yeah.
But it just... for whatever reason, there's something that just the old colors just work for that artwork
better, yeah.
And the new coloring just feels too computery.
When they recolored the Rocketeer, I felt the same way.
Yeah,
because the original Rocketeers were watercolor, and in the 80s and 90s to reprint watercolor stuff took extra funding. Like you needed like a prestige, the right kind of paper.
I still don't know how the hell they do that or did that.
I could explain it, but no one wants to hear about that. But they went they got rid of all of the watercolors on the original Rocketeers.
Yeah.
So they took it from like Norman Rockwellian Rocketeer to CGI computer style.
Ugh.
Yeah. And it's just so gaudy and over the top, and they didn't do themselves any favors.
Yeah, I've probably said this before, but if I haven't, my favorite comic of all time is Alan Moore's Miracle Man.
Right.
And it was out of print for 25 years because of rights issues, ironically enough. And, after a long, long legal battle, Marvel finally got the rights to it.
Right.
And they were reprinting it. I was so excited. I am the demographic for that book.
It was expensive, too, right?
It's expensive.
Yeah.
And they recolored everything.
Right.
And it's all modern coloring. And it's just, it doesn't, it just, they put all these, like, weird...
How much was it for the collection?
For the collection, they only came out in hardcover, and it was like 4 issues, and it was like $30. It was not cheap.
Yeah.
And if they eventually put it out in like an omnibus, I'll put the money in and I'll get it for the hell of it. But it's like,
Man, huh?
I am the specific demographic. I'm the person who wants to buy this book, and I didn't even buy it.
Are you reading Miracle Man now?
I haven't read it in a while, but when I came across it, I'll be honest with you, I came across it. I downloaded it illegally because it was the only way I could find it.
Right.
And I read it.
The old stuff.
Yeah, the original stuff.
Not the new stuff.
No. Well, they're not doing any new. I haven't downloaded the new printings. Right. I downloaded scans of the old stuff.
Gotcha.
Which was not available anywhere else unless you buy the back issues, and they're expensive. Blah blah blah.
No, yeah. No one's putting you under the gavel here.
And I read it, and I was like, I can't believe this is out of print. I can't believe people don't read this anymore. Because if you read Miracle Man, you will see so many books that have taken from that,
right,
and been praised as these like reinventions of superheroes, and it all goes back to Miracle Man. Kingdom Come, The Sentry, all of these great turns on the superhero concept. Even Watchmen.
Right.
Watchmen is Miracle Man is kind of. I think Alan Moore wrote Miracle Man before Watchmen, and there's a lot of the same themes in Miracle Man that Dr. Manhattan has in Watchmen. He does it in Swamp Thing too, where he's really into like the idea of a normal person getting a godlike power, and how that person decides to slough off his human side.
Right.
So in Miracle Man, I don't want to turn this into a Miracle Man podcast, but like he does it in Watchmen with Dr. Manhattan, where he like chooses to get rid of his humanity. He does it in Swamp Thing, where Swamp Thing chooses to get rid of his humanity. He does it in Miracle Man, where he chooses to get rid of his humanity. Right. And the way that he handles it is so great. And it's like there's this massive it takes the idea of what if Superman, or I guess in Miracle Man's case, Shazam, and the Shazam family, the Captain Marvel family, were real. And how would that affect the world? And so there's this massive, massive battle at the end with Miracle Man and Kid Miracle Man, where Kid Miracle Man just levels London. And so it's not quote unquote realistic, but it's like the consequences of what's happening, and you know how much I love consequences.
Oh yeah, your favorite thing.
of those characters existing is applied to it, and that's why I love it so much. It's a great book.
Right.
But we're here to talk about Batman.
So why haven't you read the new Miracle Man by Tom King?
Oh no, that's Mr. Miracle, different book.
Oh
yeah.
I work in comics, everybody. For like 5 minutes, the question I had to ask, telling me it was wrong the whole time.
No, Miracle. I'm not gonna. I'll tell you about Miracle Man after we're done.
He was in. No, that's Animal Man.
Yeah,
Shit.
don't worry about it. I'll tell you when we're done.
Wait, this is a Marvel character or DC?
Neither.
Going down.
Yeah. Anyway, back to
Don't
Batman.
edit this out. People should know I'm a moron.
Okay, that's fine. Again, I gave you an out.
No, fuck it. I'll die on my sword. So one thing that I did notice about this episode, which is pretty funny, is Batman is literally screaming underwater for a long time.
Oh, I think I missed it. I think I missed that.
So he's underwater. Bullock's tied up in a chair. Batman's fighting a shark.
Yeah.
And there's a piece of glass over the shark tank.
Yes.
So he can't even... So not only is he holding his breath for a minute, swimming, and fighting a shark, and on its shark's back with the chain through the shark's jaws, trying to steer the shark. Every time he goes by the camera, it's like... But it's not even bubbled up. It's just like, ah! I mean, he doesn't take any breaths, but he lets out like at least 30 seconds of screaming.
Yeah. Good mic work. Yeah, I've definitely seen those pages from the book. So that's definitely from the book.
Yeah.
The thing that I liked about this, on top of the story, when I said the Joker is he's dangerous in this, they have started using the Joker laughing gas to very good effect, I think.
Right.
Like the when that first guy gets it, when he starts laughing and freaking out, that's really scary. And even the second one where Batman they switch costumes basically.
Yeah.
So
Batman puts this other guy in danger. And
yes. When it first goes off and it's Batman,
right,
before you know they've switched, who starts getting affected with the laughing gas, you go, oh my god, that's scary shit.
Right.
And then even the shark thing I thought was pretty effective, and it's just the glee where in Christmas with the Joker,
right,
all of his things are very zany, and they're not really dangerous, and they're just sort of like goofy gags. In this, he's finding his humor and his glee out of upping the stakes and fucking people over worse.
Right.
So it's not that there's a shark in there. I mean, that's funny enough. But when he knocks Bullock in there,
right,
that's not funny enough. Then Batman goes in. That's not funny enough. Then he puts the glass over the top. That's hilarious. Right. You know? Which that's what I love about the Joker. It's like he's the only person he's trying to make laugh as himself.
He's his own audience.
Yes.
Yeah, I love when he tries to escape. He hits the button. He's on a seat with a fishing rod, and it starts like rising up into this. He actually knocks himself out on the ceiling, escaping.
Yes.
It's like a 60-foot high ceiling. I mean, that just shows you the Joker doesn't have everything planned out.
No,
he's big on improv.
Yeah. You know, he plans out the parts that he cares about. You know, he's like on his sheet. I'm sure he has all of those beats for the Shark Tank planned out.
Yeah.
But then at the bottom it's like "get away?" ?
Right.
You know, he doesn't exactly know. Although, I mean, who knows what his fate was at the end? Because they imply that he may have been eaten by a shark, or maybe he wasn't. But
so when he supposedly died, I liked Harley's line of like, "Oh yeah, I'll miss him," and then Bullock standing behind her, he's like, "You know, he was a murdering sociopath," and blah 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 blah. And she's like, "Yeah, I'll miss him."
Yeah, yeah. That's another thing. I love that this early on, Bullock speaks the truth about like their relationship, essentially, where he's like, you know, this guy was awful, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's being nice to her, but he's like, you understand that this is not a good guy, and she's like, yeah, but I love it.
Yeah, you gotta love it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually liked the subplot edition of Bullock and Batman.
Yeah.
Bullock is sort of opposed to Batman from the beginning. Batman's plan to, hey, Target, why don't you dress up as Batman and I will dress up as you, and then I'll get attacked and not you. But then he gets attacked anyway. Bullock's like, this is crazy, commish. Like, what are you doing dicking around with the Batman? Like, he's totally against Batman. But at the end, when Bullock gets captured at the aquarium and Batman, they kind of save each other. There is that moment where Bullock says to Batman, like, you know, punch him in the face for me or whatever. So that's like as much as we'll get out of Bullock as far as condoning Batman's actions.
Yeah.
I did like it for that reason.
We've talked about Bullock a little bit in the past about whether or not he's a good cop. The thing that I find interesting about Bullock is, do you feel like Bullock, on some level, wishes he could do what Batman does? I feel like that's where he lies, right?
Yeah.
He kind of is in that gray area where he's not going to break the law.
Yeah.
Well, but he admires Batman as much as he hates him.
I think Bullock thinks of himself as Dick Tracy.
Yes.
But he's lazy, and he doesn't go all the way.
Yeah, Lazy Dick Tracy's a
Lazy
really
Dick
good
Tracy.
way to put it. He kind of looks like a fat Dick Tracy, so it makes sense.
I have a shape, fat Trace Dickey.
Trace Dickey, my favorite 30s baseball player.
Oh, man. Hey, today I learned where the name the Dodgers came from.
I know I'm going to regret this. Go on.
In Brooklyn, they had all these trolleys in the street, and getting out of the way of a trolley, you were a Dodger.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Short explanation.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
That's not where I was expecting this story was going to go, and I'm glad it didn't go where I thought it was going to go.
I don't even know why I ended up listening to a documentary about the Dodgers that I was drawing, because I'm not a baseball guy.
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
You know, I once, when I couldn't sleep, I put on Ken Burns' baseball. I was like, oh, this is going to put me to sleep in seconds.
Yeah.
I could not stop watching it. It was so interesting.
That's the problem with Ken Burns.
Yeah.
I tried to sleep to Vietnam, and man, that shit kept me up all night. But I had
Oh, boy.
So one thing I noticed was when Joker poisoned the fish, he wasn't actually poisoning people. He could have.
Right.
But it was a 2-part toxin, which gets into Batman 89.
Yeah, there was a lot of Batman 89 in this, yes.
So I'm wondering, and I haven't read the 3 comics that this came from, so the answer's probably out there. But in Batman 89, you have Joker having a toxin, but it's in 2 parts. It has to be like lipstick paired with eyeliner or something, and when the 2 are used together, that's what makes you crazy.
Yeah.
This is sort of the same thing.
If I was more rehearsed, I could give you the exact line, but I've forgot it at this point.
Damn it, I wish I could remember it to up you. Yeah, when he's in Vicky Vale, he's like, it's not just lipstick.
Yeah.
It's eyeliner, eyeshadow, too.
Yeah, I used to be able to. I actually challenged somebody in college, because this is how cool I was in college, to pick any point in that movie, and then I would give you the next line.
Oh yeah,
and I beat it. I did it every time.
Nice.
But I don't think I can do it anymore. But
I used to be able to do that with Spaceballs.
That's a good one. Yeah,
that's quotable.
Yeah, I did notice a lot of Batman 89 stuff, like the commercials for the fish reminded me of the Smilex commercials, the Love That Joker stuff. And,
but I wonder if if Batman 89 was influenced by the comics, and then this cartoon was influenced by Batman 89, which is influenced by the comics that the cartoon was based off of.
Yeah, I would like to know that too. Yeah, because Batman 89 always gets compared to Dark Knight Returns, and I actually think it's closer to like Killing Joke.
Right.
In the way that it handles the characters and stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was some more involved. Because I know, what's his name? Tim Burton famously is like, I've never read a Batman comic.
Yeah.
You know, whatever.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the person who wrote it didn't.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would, these are stories I would love to read.
Yeah.
Call DC and have them send you some free copies so we can both read them.
I actually told them to stop sending me shit because I didn't have anywhere to put it, and I got tired of receiving a bunch of comics I wasn't using.
That's fair. Yeah.
But they were like, okay.
Boo fucking who.
I actually had a someone online. I posted a question on Twitter about favorite Batmobiles or something.
Yeah.
And a lot of people thought the Tumbler was overrated. But a lot of people started picking on the Keaton mobile.
How dare they?
They said the one with the big nipple.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I guess.
Yeah. See, for you and me, it never occurred.
No, it's a jet turbine.
If you're younger and you're looking at it as your 66 Batmobile, basically, it might look kind of goofy. But
that's when you take them aside and go, do you understand how planes work? This is a jet turbine. It's actually the most accurate. If you're going to put a jet on the back of the Batmobile, you're going to need the air intake on the front. So sit the fuck down.
It's true. But the sound you hear is like an obvious 8-cylinder engine.
Yes.
It's not a... it's not
obviously,
a
that's obviously the sound.
It's that burbling... That's not a turbine engine. That's an 8-cylinder American muscle engine, which makes me think that there's a turbine aspect to that. When if it has to like rocket off really fast, it switches to turbine.
You're such a fucking nerd. God, nerd. Fucking nerd over here.
But yeah, people that were kind of picking on the 89, and I was stunned because I just thought we all universally agreed that was the best one.
Well, I can understand that because I think looking back at it, if you didn't grow up with that, I could look at that. I'm looking at the car right now. It's amazing. But I could look at that car and say, it's probably a little over-designed.
No. I thought about this a lot.
I'm speaking from the point of view of someone who has only known the Tumblr.
Fuck that person. So I've thought a lot about this. And actually, we could make this a separate podcast. Do you want to do a separate Batmobile podcast?
We'll get there, because okay. I know we could get an entire hour out of that with you, so yes.
But I'll give you the short of it right now. I understand that there's nostalgia happening. I understand why people like the 66.
Yeah.
But objectively speaking, from the concept artist part of me that looks at how design works and like the outline of a shape, the 66 Batmobile is not a great design. I don't think it's an opinion. I think it's objectively, you can almost scientifically prove that it's just not that seduction. That's seductive. I don't know what I'm trying to say. The shape of it just doesn't work on that level.
Yeah.
But the 89 Batmobile, I think, is pretty bulletproof.
Yeah.
Like, I can already see holes in the Tumblr design. I can see holes in the Batman animated series design.
Yep.
When I look at the Keaton Mobile from any angle, you've got three basic parts that stand out from any level. You've got the front turbine part. Like, you can camera angles, just shoot that, and you know exactly what you're looking at. You can shoot the outline for any angle, and like the flares off the back, the bat wings stick up over the profile of the car. I mean, it's just like, it's so good. Is it over the top? Yeah, in some movies it would be over the top, but in the Burton movies it totally fits in. Yeah. And I just feel like this isn't even an opinion. I think objectively, scientifically speaking, it is literally the best Batmobile that we've had so far.
I'm not going to disagree with you, because I am totally biased. Yeah, and I mean, I think again, we definitely should do an episode that's just about the Batmobile, because I think people would love that.
In my defense, I've been drinking a beer that's 9% for a while now, so.
But just to quickly, my opinion on the Batmobile design since then. I think a lot of the movie ones are subject to the same pitfalls as a lot of other concept design now, where HD stuff and digital filming is so hyper, there's so much resolution that things get way over-designed.
Right.
I think the Tumblr skirts the line, where I think it's iconic looking, but there's a lot going on there.
Right.
The Snyder Batmobile, I think, is way over designed.
Yeah.
And it's got so many small parts and so many textures and stuff, and you just lose the
it's like a
mystery.
Transformer.
It's crazy. Exactly. Yeah.
And there's no clear shot. Like, there isn't in the Snyder Batman. Sorry to cut you off.
No problem.
There isn't a clear shot where Batman's like, get in, and you see a camera angle of the car. You just see the car in Snyder. You see the car in action, and it's blurry and CG. I mean, it's smoke everywhere. Like, you don't know what the fuck he's driving half the time.
Yeah. There's no. I mean, with I think this is applicable to comics as well as movies. I think it's applicable to anything like this, where if you have the ability to make so much busy stuff happen, something has to be simple.
Yeah.
Right? So there has to be some element of your design has to be simple enough to take the weight of your eye.
Right.
So if you've got your background, if you're thinking about the Justice League movie, you've got all this shit flying through the air, and you've got all these crazy backgrounds and parademons flying around, and you've also got this hyper over-designed Batmobile coming through.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah, or like if to jump to Star Trek Discovery for a second, in the first season, we had Wes and I kind of ran afoul of one of the concept designers by accident, because he showed they showed this design for this Klingon torchbearer thing, uniform. And it's super cool. It's really cool, but it's so over-designed. It's very modern, lots of little tiny bits, and it's in the show for about 5 seconds.
Right.
And it shows up during a space battle where the main character is fighting this guy on top of a ship while like a star in the background is pulling apart a moon or some shit. And you don't even see what you're looking at. It's in and it's out in 5 seconds. And I was like, this guy spent so much time designing this thing, and you can't even tell what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
And I think that applies to comics. I think it applies to movies, everything.
Oh, yeah. No, too many little bits of design, because I like that phrase. When you have the CGI era of animation and design, like even new Lamborghinis, like hypercar Lamborghinis, you don't know where to look. Yeah. Because like a computer has decided that this is the crazy stealth wedge shape that'll work in a wind tunnel. But like, I don't know what the standout design feature is.
Right.
If I look at a Countach or a Ferrari Testarossa, like I know the back wide end, the rear end. Like a human came up with that because he carved it out of clay.
Yep.
And there's something about it that's like instantly recognizable. If you overcomplicate your shapes, then it's lost. And I think that's what happens with like Michael Bay's Transformers.
Yep.
With the new Batmobile, like you zoom in, like you've got like gears on top of gears on top of gears
Yep.
in the background, and then a moon being torn apart. I mean, it's like, what the fuck am I supposed to look at right now?
Yeah, exactly.
Like a simple shape catches the eye. It's like, like the Batman turbine front end.
Yeah.
Does it look like a nipple? Sure. But it's like a circle with a little thing coming out. Like, great. I know that I'm facing the front of the Batmobile.
Yeah.
Your brain can go on to other things.
You can have that drive by.
Yeah.
And so much stuff going on in the background,
exactly.
you still know what you're looking at.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Speaking of the Testarossa, I've been watching a lot of Miami Vice lately.
That's right.
I hate the single mirror. I hate it so much.
Single mirror.
The Testarossa has it only has one mirror, driver's side mirror.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't have the other one because back in the 80s, I guess, because I had a car, our family had a car that only had one mirror.
Yeah, that was kind of a thing for a while.
As a designer, I fucking hate it.
It's this asymmetrical bullshit.
Yeah, I hate it.
You had to spend like...
and it's not on the door either. It's on the frame of the window, of the windshield, which is even weirder.
And back in the 80s, those things cost, $200,000, which was a lot of money back then.
Oh, yeah.
And
a lot of money now.
You wouldn't even get two mirrors. And also, the visibility
I want a
on those
second mirror.
I've sat in a Testarossa.
Yeah.
And my head was against the ceiling.
Oh,
you
boy.
would not be able to drive a Testarossa.
Oh, that's such a damn shame.
You would drive it as a convertible.
Oh, God, that's such a great car.
It's designed from the outside in. That's
care.
the problem.
I don't care.
The pedals are in the middle, so you're like facing diagonally as you're driving in a straight line.
It's awesome. It looks great.
I'm with you.
I finally, a couple years ago, I finally got to sit inside a DeLorean.
Oh, God.
And I was surprised how roomy that was.
Really?
Yeah. And I was talking, I sat inside of it.
Have you driven it?
No, he wouldn't let me drive it,
Okay.
which is fine because I don't know if it was a manual or rotor, but I can't drive manual. I sat in it and I didn't think I was going to fit, but then I sat down and it was actually fairly roomy, and I'm a tall guy. I'm like 6'3". And the guy whose car it was telling me, John DeLorean, is that his name? John?
Yeah, he was tall. Yeah.
He's a tall guy.
Yeah.
And so he designed a car that he could fit in.
Yeah.
And I was like, I knew I liked this
with
car.
a Peugeot engine, underpowered. That is a horrible car.
Yeah, it's a shame.
I love it, but it is a horrible car.
Such a shame. Anyway.
We can talk about that during our Batmobile podcast.
Back to Batman. I think we've pretty much more or less covered this.
So I give it a 3, but I agree that it probably deserves a 4, but it's just not my thing.
Yeah, what would you, if you had to pick something to draw, what would you pick?
There's a point where Bullock is walking into the aquarium, and it's shot through the inside of fish tanks.
Yeah.
And I'm a sucker for drawing fish, coral, and underwater goop. Like, I love that stuff, so I would draw that scene.
My original answer was that I wouldn't draw any of it because I would just go and read the comic that it came from, who probably did it better than I ever could.
Oh, God. I'm glad you didn't answer with that.
However, I will say, I am, as I said, I have a little model of the cover, the famous Neil Adams Laughing Fish cover. I am very upset that they did not recreate that cover in the show of the Joker holding the two fish in front of Batman. It's just such an iconic cover.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Why did you buy this, by the way?
Because I bought that years and years ago. I wanted a Joker thing, and I thought it was kind of cool.
This is made out of metal.
Yeah, it's pewter.
Holy shit. So you bought this years ago?
A long time ago, yeah.
After you saw the episode?
No. I think I just bought it because I liked it.
Because you like Joker. It's like Joker standing in a Wild West stance with two fish as his 6 guns.
Yeah.
Smiling like a crazy man. Hands up, Batman. I've got you covered.
Yeah, I mean, it's a famous Neil Adams cover. I'm bummed that they didn't take the opportunity to recreate that shot. Maybe they did and I just missed it, but I was looking for it and I didn't see it.
Is that Neil Adams? I don't think it is.
Well, whoever it is. It's a great cover.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's Neil Adams. I'm not 100% sure.
I don't think it is. Rogers and... I can't read the second name.
Neil Adams.
That bicep, that's not a Neil Adams bicep.
Yeah, it might not be, but it's regardless, it's an iconic Batman cover.
I think you get ripped off here, Clay. I don't know.
Hey, man. I love that cover.
No, honestly, I wonder what the original art
do
of the
that
covers
cool
were
thing
now.
where you can cut back and forth between
Mignola
lightning strikes and like punches and stuff like that, and really, I may have said I've probably picked something similar to this in the past because clearly you know what I like, but
you want a Batman lit by fire.
Oh yeah.
And lightning.
Yeah.
Batman, Fire and Lightning. It sounds like a
that's a good name for a book.
like Fire and Ice kind of.
What would fire and lightning actually even do together?
Doesn't matter, man. You gotta have a villain that gives out. So fire would be Azrael, lightning would be Electro.
Sure.
Wait, Electro is Marvel, right?
Yes.
Oh shit.
Never studied.
I don't consume, I create.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fair. Yeah, anyway, I think that's about it for this episode of Batman. If you like the podcast, please give us a rating or review on iTunes, or if you're on any Batman Reddit boards and they're asking, like, hey, are there any good Batman podcasts?
Talk about this one.
Talk about this one.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that stuff, people read that stuff, and it's very helpful.
Yeah. And we're thinking about doing a Patreon or something soon.
Yeah, I think by the time this comes out, I think we will be part of the Pensky File Patreon.
Yeah, if you want to throw a couple bucks this way, I'm not taking anything. It's just for Clay, who cuts these together.
Give me your money.
The hard work.
Give me your money. Yeah, and we've actually got a Pensky File T-shirt shop where you can buy badass T-shirts if you want.
Nice.
Which I did not look up the address for, but you'll be able to find it.
We're totally prepared.
Yeah, I actually wasn't planning on doing this, but here we are.
I think we need to get dinner. I think we're
I
tired.
think so too. But yeah, if you want to do that, you can if you sign up for the Pensky File Patreon, you get all of the extra stuff that Wes and I cover. We do movies and all that kind of stuff. Lots of Star Trek. If that's your thing. Or if you just want to support us, that would be awesome. If you get any questions, if you want to shoot us some questions, you can do so. Send us an email. BATTASS podcast, BATTASS podcast @gmail.com, or shoot us a tweet on Twitter. It's at BATTASS podcast. That's going to do it, I think, for us. Thank you, Sean.
Sounds good, man. Thank you.
And next time we'll be back with Robin's Reckoning Part 1 and Part 2. See you guys.
Bye.